How to block cancer before it strikes. The truth you were never told about prevention. Have you ever wondered if there's anything you can do today so you never have to deal with cancer in the future? What if the answer lies in your daily routine? In what you eat, what you feel, and what you breathe? Does prevention start long before routine exams? These questions move us because no one wants to hear a cancer diagnosis. But what if everything you've heard so far about this disease is incomplete? In the midst of this labyrinth of information, another question arises. What, in fact, is within our reach? Many studies show that cancer can be influenced by emotional, dietary, and environmental factors. And understanding this can change everything. If you're here, it's because you want to go beyond the obvious. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. Let's get started. The silent onset of cancer. How to avoid it before it even appears. Many people believe that cancer starts from nowhere, but the truth is that it develops quietly, sometimes for years, before it shows the first sign. There is a phase called initiation, an almost invisible starting point where the cell begins to transform discreetly. It is precisely at this moment that real prevention can happen. A healthy life, with quality sleep, a balanced diet, and stress reduction acts as a powerful barrier against this initial transformation. But this barrier needs to be constant, because once the cancer cell is started, many of these preventive strategies lose their effect. Studies indicate that factors such as a diet rich in vegetables, regular physical activity, and absence of smoking are associated with a lower risk of several types of cancer, as pointed out by institutions such as the National Cancer Institute, (NCA), and the World Health Organization, WHO. Science has already shown that lifestyle can influence the cellular microenvironment, making it difficult to mutate and replicate uncontrollably. Therefore, acting earlier is always more efficient. Waiting for the problem to appear and only then looking for solutions is like trying to put out a fire after the house has already caught fire. True prevention is silent, invisible, and powerful. But is that enough? Do you know what's going on inside your body? Understand the hidden phases of cancer. After the initiation phase, cancer enters even more dangerous and silent stages: promotion and progression. In the promotion phase, abnormal cells begin to multiply, taking advantage of a favorable environment created by bad habits, chronic inflammation, nutritional deficiencies, or even unresolved emotions. It is as if the fertile soil is prepared, and now the seed grows unchecked. This phase can last for years without symptoms. Progression, on the other hand, marks the uncontrolled advance of these cells, which turn into tumors, invade tissues, and eventually spread to other parts of the body. This process is what leads to the dreaded metastasis. At this stage, cancer is no longer just a silent threat. It becomes an active force, often aggressive and difficult to contain. Therefore, identifying what stage the body is in is essential to know how to act. Strategies that work well in prevention may have little effect when the cancer has already progressed. According to research published in journals such as Cancer Research and Nature Reviews Cancer, personalized interventions based on the stage of the disease have more effective results. The body gives signals. But are we listening? Cancer's secret roots, why it migrates, and where it likes to hide. One of the scariest features of cancer is its ability to migrate through the body. This process is known as metastasis. And the most surprising? Not all organs are affected in the same way. Cancer cells have preferences. The lung, for example, is the most common destination for metastases. This happens because all the blood in the body passes through it, making it a real meeting point for cells that detach from the original tumor. But there are other curious attractions. Breast and prostate cancer, for example, show a strange affinity for bones. It is as if the bone tissue emits signals that attract these malignant cells. Research suggests that there are chemicals involved in this process, functioning as a biological call. And it doesn't stop there. For a cancer cell to create a new tumor in another location, it must overcome several obstacles. It needs to survive in the blood, escape the immune system, find a new place, settle, and above all, create its own network of blood vessels. It is an ingenious plan, almost like an organized invasion. But not every cell can do this. Therefore, fighting cancer before it enters this phase is like closing the roads before the enemy flees. Only, what happens when these roads have already been opened? How cancer creates its own path inside you. When a cancer cell arrives at a new location in the body, it needs something fundamental to survive: nutrients. And for that, she needs blood. This is where a process called angiogenesis comes in. Angiogenesis is the tumor's ability to create its own blood vessels, opening up pathways to feed and continue growing. This ability makes cancer even more dangerous. Even in places where there are not enough vessels initially, the tumor sends chemical signals that summon the formation of a new irrigation network. It's as if cancer said, "I'm here, and I want resources." Angiogenesis not only feeds the tumor, but also facilitates the transport of malignant cells to other points in the body. In other words, it opens doors to new metastases. Some modern drugs target precisely this process, trying to prevent cancer from building these pathways. But like everything else in the body, this system also exists for a reason. It participates in natural processes, such as healing. Therefore, the challenge is to block only the angiogenesis of the tumor, without affecting healthy functions. Recent research, such as those published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology, shows that integrated strategies, combining diet, inflammation control, and metabolic support, can inhibit angiogenesis in a more balanced way. But if the tumor can even create its own vessels, is it really controlled only by genes? What if everything you think about cancer is wrong? The new metabolic view of disease. For a long time, it was believed that cancer was purely a genetic disease. But new evidence is challenging that idea. Researchers have shown that cancer may actually be a metabolic disease, linked to the functioning of mitochondria, which are the power plants of cells. This concept changes everything. Rather than focusing solely on genetic mutations, this new approach proposes to investigate how the cellular environment, nutrition, and metabolism affect cell health. A striking experiment exemplifies this theory. When scientists transferred the nucleus of a cancer cell to a healthy cell, there was no cancer development. But when they did the opposite, inserting the nucleus of a healthy cell into a cancer cell, the cancer continued to manifest itself. The problem then seemed to be outside the core, in the cytoplasm. In other words, cancer is not only in the DNA, but in the way the cell works and feeds. This understanding has led to the re-evaluation of traditional treatments, and it strengthened the importance of nutrition, cellular respiration, and detoxification. Researchers such as Thomas Seyfried and studies published in Frontiers in Oncology reinforce the idea that cancer can be controlled by altering the metabolic environment of the cell. This completely changes the game. But after all, what exactly is throwing this cellular environment out of balance? 3 powerful triggers that can trigger cancer in your body. Did you know that only 3 main factors are behind most cancer cases? 3 triggers that, alone or combined, can create the perfect environment for the onset of the disease. The first of these is deep emotional conflict. High-impact situations, such as the loss of a loved one, traumatic divorces, or unresolved traumas, leave marks not only on the mind, but also on the body. Several studies in the field of psychoneuroimmunology show how chronic stress and repressed emotions directly affect the immune system. The second factor is malnutrition. People with cancer almost always have severe nutritional deficiencies. We are not just talking about calories, but vitamins, minerals, proteins, and antioxidants essential for cell function and for the body's defense. The third element is poisoning by chemical substances and heavy metals. Constant contact with pesticides, pollution, plastics, cosmetics, and industrialized products can overload the body. In addition, metals such as lead, mercury, and aluminum have been linked to a higher incidence of cancer. When the body is intoxicated, malnourished, and emotionally collapsing, cancer finds the ideal terrain to develop. Therefore, treating only the tumor does not solve it. it is necessary to investigate what caused the biological imbalance in the first place. But is it possible to avoid cancer by eliminating these triggers, or even revert an already installed frame? Cancer's favorite fuel is in your refrigerator. Most people don't realize it, but cancer has a favorite fuel: glucose. Yes, sugar. This information is not new. The scientist Otto Warburg, winner of the Nobel Prize in 1931, had already shown that cancer cells consume glucose in an intense and uncontrolled way, even in the presence of oxygen. It's as if the tumor is hungry, and sugar was his daily feast. While the whole body suffers, the tumor grows, strong and voracious, feeding on the glucose that should nourish healthy tissues. Therefore, patients undergoing cancer treatment who continue with diets rich in sugars and refined carbohydrates may unknowingly be feeding the enemy. And it's not just glucose. Glutamine, an amino acid found in many foods and supplements, can also be a source of energy for certain cancers, such as leukemia and lymphomas. That is why, in some cases, it is recommended to avoid even the intake of glutamine. Still, traditional conduct often ignores this information. It is not uncommon to hear generic recommendations such as "eat what you want," even during chemotherapy. But what if changing the diet was a decisive step in the treatment? Could a simple ice cream jeopardize your fight against cancer? Ketogenic diet, the nutritional weapon that can stop the advance of cancer. Imagine a dietary strategy that cuts off the main fuel of cancer and at the same time strengthens healthy cells. This is the proposal of the ketogenic diet. It is based on an extremely low carbohydrate intake, moderate in protein, and high in good fats. By doing so, the body stops using glucose as a primary source of energy and starts producing ketone bodies from fat. These ketone bodies feed healthy cells, but not cancer cells. Researchers like Dr. Thomas Seyfried have been showing impressive results with the use of the ketogenic diet in cancer patients. According to his studies, when tumors are deprived of glucose, they lose strength and, in many cases, regress. Unfortunately, this approach still meets resistance in traditional medical circles. But in centers of excellence, such as Johns Hopkins in the United States, the ketogenic diet is already studied as a therapeutic complement. In addition, it has shown benefits in neurological and autoimmune diseases and even sports performance. The key to success lies in the quality of the fats consumed. No refined or industrialized oils. The base should be composed of sources such as coconut oil, avocado, olive oil, nuts and fish rich in omega-3. A well-planned diet can become a powerful tool in the fight against cancer. But is it only food that can suffocate the tumor? And what would happen if we used it too? Oxygen. What cancer fears, the silent force of oxygen. If there's one thing cancer really doesn't like, it's oxygen-rich environments. Cancer cells thrive in acidic, inflamed, low-oxygenated environments. This is why many experts say, oxygen is a real enemy of the tumor. Otto Warburg, the same scientist who studied the relationship between glucose and cancer, also highlighted the importance of cellular oxygenation. He found that tumor cells have difficulty performing aerobic respiration, the process by which healthy cells produce energy using oxygen. That is, when the environment becomes more oxygenated, the cancer cells suffer. In some alternative therapeutic approaches, such as von Ardenne oxygen therapy, the use of high doses of oxygen is a central part of the protocol. This treatment aims to force apoptosis, that is, the natural death of the cancer cell, which normally has difficulty dying. It stays alive for too long, multiplying unchecked. It's like a vampire who has to run away from the sunlight. And oxygen, in this case, is the light that reveals and weakens the disease. Maintaining good oxygenation also involves simple practices. Breathing deeply, avoiding polluted environments, practicing physical activities, and taking care of lung health. Nature offers us powerful tools. But are we using them all? And what about the invisible toxins that surround us every day? Heavy metal, poisons, and detox, the hidden side of cancer prevention. Did you know that you can be in daily contact with substances that favor the development of cancer, without even knowing it? Heavy metals such as mercury, lead, and aluminum are present in food, cosmetics, household items, and even in the water we drink. These elements accumulate in the body and over time impair cell functioning, inflame tissues, and weaken the immune system. The result is an intoxicated and vulnerable body. Several studies point out that the accumulation of these toxins can be directly related to the appearance of different types of cancer. It is as if the body is constantly trying to defend itself until it loses its balance. In mining sites, for example, where exposure to mercury is common, the incidence of cancer is much higher. But the danger is not only in these extreme places. It is in deodorants with aluminum, pans with toxic coatings, industrialized foods, and cleaning products full of aggressive chemicals. The good news is that the body also has the ability to limpar. Calm the help of natural substances such as chlorophyll, turmeric, and chelating supplements. It is possible to help the body eliminate these poisons. But the detoxification process needs to be done with discretion and, whenever possible, with the guidance of a professional. After all, there is no point in fighting cancer if we continue to feed the environment that created it. What if even prevention that we believe to be safe is putting us at risk? Can mammography prevent or promote cancer? The answer will surprise you. When it comes to breast cancer prevention, mammography is almost always cited as the protagonist. But does it really prevent? The answer may be more complex and controversial than it seems. Mammography is not a form of prevention. It is a detection tool. That is, it does not prevent the appearance of cancer, it only identifies when it already exists. The problem is that by blindly trusting this test, many women continue to maintain harmful habits, believing that they are safe. My mammogram was normal, so I'm healthy. But is it really? In countries such as Canada, Sweden, and England, it is recommended to have a mammogram only after the age of 50 and at 3-year intervals. In Brazil, there are cases of 25-year-old women undergoing the exam annually, unnecessarily. More than that, the radiation involved, although in low dose, is cumulative. There are studies that suggest that the impact of compression and radiation can, in some cases, contribute to the development of the disease itself, especially if there are already silent cellular changes. It seems contradictory, but excessive tests can also be harmful. What should be a support resource becomes a trap when used without criteria. What's more, mammography can generate false positives, unnecessary distress, and even aggressive treatments for benign changes. Preventing cancer is taking care of your health every day, and not just doing exams. But there's something very simple and powerful that can be within your reach right now: sunlight. Vitamin D, the most underrated natural defense against cancer. It is free, affordable, and the human body was designed to produce it. We are talking about vitamin D, a substance essential for the functioning of the immune system, and which has a surprising role in cancer prevention. Several studies show that adequate levels of vitamin D are associated with a lower incidence of several types of cancer, such as breast, prostate, colon, and even ovarian cancers. What's more, studies show that people with cancer and vitamin D deficiency have a higher risk of mortality. But here's the warning. Most people, even living in a sunny country like Brazil, have suboptimal vitamin D levels. The reason? Lack of adequate sun exposure, excessive use of sunscreen, and often a diet low in natural sources of this vitamin. The vitamin D circulating in the blood is the 25-hydroxyvitamin D form. The ideal value, according to many experts, should be between 50 and 90 nanograms per milliliter. Below that, the immune system loses efficiency, and the risk of cell mutations increases. That's why some call vitamin D a natural cancer vaccine. But like any powerful tool, it needs to be used responsibly. Supplementation should be done with guidance, especially in high doses. Sunbathing consciously, exposing arms and legs for 20 minutes a day without sunscreen can already be a good start. Sometimes, what seems simple, it is what is most lacking. But what if traditional treatment itself was fueling the problem? Is insulin curing or causing disease? The truth behind traditional treatment. When it comes to diabetes, the first solution that usually comes up is insulin. But few know that, in some cases, it may be feeding the problem more than solving it. This is because insulin, in addition to controlling blood sugar, is also a highly lipogenic hormone. That is, it promotes the accumulation of fat and favors weight gain. What's more, its continuous use can increase insulin resistance, making the body less and less sensitive to the hormone. An unsettling paradox. Important multicenter studies, such as ACCORD, show that patients with strict blood glucose control, with intensive insulin use, had a higher risk of cardiovascular events and sudden death. This raises a crucial question. Are we focusing on the number, blood glucose, and forgetting what really matters? In addition, excess insulin can stimulate cell growth, including tumor cells. There is a link between insulin resistance and increased risk of cancer, especially breast, colon, and pancreatic cancer. For this reason, more and more experts point to diet as the real key to diabetes control and cancer prevention. The ketogenic diet, for example, has shown promising results in reducing insulin dependence and controlling blood glucose naturally. While conventional treatments try to put out the fire, the food acts directly at the source of the flames. But does this diet have benefits that go beyond diabetes? What can it do for other chronic diseases? From epilepsy to lupus, how a diet can transform lives and defeat diseases. Few people imagine that a simple change in diet can be able to control and even reverse serious chronic diseases such as epilepsy and lupus. The ketogenic diet, which we have already shown to be effective in fighting cancer and diabetes, has also been studied as an ally in neurological and autoimmune cases. And the results are surprising. A striking example is the case of Charlie, son of Hollywood producer Jim Abrams. Diagnosed with severe epilepsy, Charlie had more than 30 seizures a day, underwent surgeries, and used various medications, without success. It wasn't until she started the ketogenic diet at Johns Hopkins Medical Center that her flare-ups disappeared completely. The case gained international repercussion, became a movie, and inspired the creation of the Charlie Foundation. Autoimmune diseases, such as lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and multiple sclerosis, have also shown significant improvements when the patient adopts a diet low in carbohydrates and rich in good fats. That's because the ketogenic diet reduces systemic inflammation, stabilizes metabolism, and strengthens the immune system. It acts at the root of the problem, and not just the symptoms. Despite this, it is still little known, and often discredited by those who have not studied its effects in depth. Perhaps because it does not involve patents, expensive medicines, or large commercial interests. But the science is there, and so are the results. Only one ingredient is missing: willingness to change. But what, after all, makes this diet so powerful? Is fat bad? Depends on. Find out what really matters in your diet. For decades, we've been taught to fear fat. She was unjustly accused of being the great villain of heart disease, obesity, and even cancer. But are all fats equal? The answer is no. There are bad fats, yes, such as trans fats and refined vegetable oils, which undergo aggressive chemical processes, such as hydrogenation. These oils are present in margarines, industrialized cookies, fried foods, and ultra-processed foods. They inflame the body, overload the liver, and are linked to increased cancer risk. But there are also good fats, those that the body needs to function well. Fats such as omega-3 present in cold water fish, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado, and nuts. These fats have an anti-inflammatory effect, protect the brain, balance hormones, and yes, help prevent chronic diseases, including cancer. The ketogenic diet, for example, is based precisely on this type of fat. And the results are clear: improved energy, weight loss, glycemic control, less inflammation, and above all, strengthening of the immune system. Letting go of the fear of fat is liberating, as long as you know how to choose. It's time to swap out the vegetable oil off the shelf for natural, healthy sources. Your kitchen can be your greatest ally, or your worst enemy. The choice is in your hands. But knowing all this is of no use if you don't decide to apply. And that's where the most important part of all comes in. Your attitude towards information. You said, ChatGPT said, perfect. Let's now go to the motivational ending with up to 270 words. You've made it this far. It absorbed information that few people have access to. And now you may be wondering, what do I do with all this? The answer is simple, but powerful. You start with a decision. The decision to take care of your body before illness knocks on the door. The decision to look at your diet more consciously. To take deep breaths, reduce stress, prioritize sleep, and reconnect with your emotional health. To seek serious professional guidance based on evidence and not on fads. Knowledge only becomes transformation when it becomes action, and the time to act is now. Don't wait for a diagnosis to change. Don't wait for fright, pain, or loss to review choices that can save your life. Preventive medicine is the way of the future, and you've already taken the first step in seeking to understand what really matters. Science is advancing, but the responsibility for your health remains yours. Take care of your biological territory. Cultivate a body where cancer finds no place. And remember, small habits, repeated every day, build a lifetime of protection. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to start. Because at the end of the day, the best cure is the one that never needed to be used. Your health is your greatest asset. And to protect this heritage, it is the greatest act of love you can do for yourself.